you guys set up. Just let me know when you're ready. You guys ready to go? Oh, wait, one more. How are you? Just give 1 second for one more camera to set up. I got Dan. No sleeping. Yeah, trip it right here. Come on. Well, you can listen.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
You fine. All right, ready to go? All right. I want to, first of all, good afternoon to everyone. I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank all the public safety personnel and city workers who are working to clear the snow and keep our neighborhood safe. I want to thank everyone for doing their part, staying off the roads, shoveling and checking on their neighbors. The one thing I will say, however, we do have too many cars on the streets of Boston. People are stopping and getting stuck on skidding. So we're asking people, if you're on the roads, you can hear this, get off the roads. We don't want to have troubles out there. We also want to be able to clear the streets. Our plow crews have been working hard to keep our streets clear. Public Works was out at 4 a.m. this morning working to pre-treat the roads. We had 400 spreaders on the roads before 6 a.m., and now we have over 750 pieces of equipment that's out there on the streets all day today. Boston Police, Fire, and EMS have been working to operate with extra staff and extra snow equipment. Our outreach teams are out there helping people get into shelters last night, and they continue to make sure that people aren't out in the cold today as the day goes on. Our BCOF staff has done an amazing job. We've had a lot of kids show up at our different facilities that are open today, staying warm and safe and having a place to hang out and play and enjoying the snow day. Leading up to the storm, we've been working very hard to make sure that no one is out in the cold. Our outreach teams have been encouraging folks to get off the streets and come into our shelters, and we're going to continue to have those folks out there all day long today to pull people off the streets of Boston. If you see somebody out in the cold, if you're walking down the street or you see somebody out there, please call 911 so we can get emergency personnel to that person, hopefully to get them to come into shelter today. Right now, the National Weather Service is calling on a total snowfall in Boston between 12 and 18 inches. We expect the snow to taper off around 9 p.m. tonight, with freezing cold temperatures lasting all weekend. The Boston Public Schools will be closed tomorrow. We're going to work throughout the weekend to make sure that the buses and school grounds are ready for our students to return on Monday. We're going to make sure that the sidewalks are clear and that the parking lots are available for the parents and for the teachers. While schools are closed, our BCYF centers are a great place for our kids to stay warm, and all BCYF centers will be open tomorrow, so those families that depend on our centers for daycare, that have childcare in them, they will be open tomorrow. There's been some flooding due to extremely high tides in some parts of our city. We've seen it in neighborhoods including the Seaport, the Charlestown, North End, East Boston, and Dorchester, and other parts of our city. The tides peaked at 12:38 p.m. this afternoon, and we believe as it goes out, the tide's starting to recede right now. We will have another high tide around midnight tonight, but we're not expecting it as high, but we're planning in the case of extremely high tide tonight. We've checked with all of our water and sewer crews are out there, and they're checking on these locations to make sure that we're moving forward, and the Boston Fire Department was out there as well today. Logan Airport is open, however, flights are getting canceled. We recommend that people, before you make that trip into Boston or make the trip to Logan Airport, that you check with your airlines on the flight, the status of your flight. The MBTA is experiencing some flooding in sections of the Blue Line track. They've suspended service between Wonderland and Orient Heights, and I want to give credit to the MBTA and the workers there who've done an incredible job. Their service level is pretty high today, and I want to thank them for the great work they've done on keeping the service moving. We're going to continue to monitor the forecast and deploy every resource necessary to make sure that our neighborhoods are safe. Plows will continue to operate. We're asking people to stay off the streets, even walking, because it's extremely dangerous, and with the whiteout conditions, plow drivers won't always see you, so we're asking you to be very, very careful. We're going to focus on cleaning the main arteries, the hills, and the bridges. You're going to see that over the course of the next few hours. We're going to get to every street in the city of Boston, so be patient, but we're going to trying to get those streets, as I said yesterday, from curb to curb, so we don't lose any street moving forward in the next few days with the extreme cold. As the snow winds down, the crews will remain out to plow all the way down to asphalt, and we're going to continue to do that. And again, I can't stress that we are getting too many people stuck in snow. A lot of people did stay home today, and I want to thank them, the employees. I want to thank the employers for allowing your staff to stay home today, but we're asking you, please get off the roads today, right now. As we've done in the past, the Boston Police Department has given an extraordinarily high amount of rides to emergency personnel, like doctors and nurses. The ride for the Boston Police Department for doctors and nurses only to and from hospitals. They can't be a chauffeur service today. They don't have the volume, but we are making sure they've given several rides already today. If you are an emergency personnel who needs transport, you can call 311 to get connected, or you can call directly to the local police station in your area. The parking ban is in effect until we lift the snow emergency. That is not going to be determined until either later today or tomorrow morning when we will do that. We will assess when it's safe to lift the ban, and as the storm winds down, as we feel that we're getting the appropriate snow off of the streets in our city. After the parking ban is lifted, residents will have 2 hours to get their cars out of the paid parking lot before they have to pay regular pay hikes. So we'll give plenty of notification to people to let you know that you need to get your cars back out of those parking garages. As I said earlier, this is always a hot topic. Residents using space savers will have 48 hours before they must remove them, except in the South End where they're banned, where they don't use space savers, but the 48-hour rule will take into effect after the snow stops. We're reminding everyone to best try and stay on top of the shoveling, dress warm in layers. We're encouraging people not to come out, but those of you that do come out for shoveling, we're asking you to a 42-inch wide path in front of your home, around any part of your property. We're asking people to make sure you can shovel out the hydrants, the crosswalks, and the catch basins, because if we don't get those shoveled out tonight or tomorrow morning, there's a good chance they're going to freeze, and in the case of an emergency, we won't be able to get to those areas. The city's rule on sidewalks is that they should be shoveled by 3 hours after dawn, so that's about 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So we're asking people by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, you need to have your sidewalk shoveled. Please also help us with your neighbors who are elderly or might have health issues. If you're shoveling, make sure you keep an eye on them, and if they need help with shoveling, we ask you to do the same thing to help shovel their paths out as well. And I can't stress the fire hydrant and the crosswalks and the catch basins are very important for us to make sure that people can get to them. Like I said, the snow is going to taper off tonight, but this weekend is going to be dangerously cold. We have a wind chill factor in effect at tomorrow night, Friday night at 7 p.m. until Saturday around 2 in the afternoon. So we're asking people, other than going out to shovel, we're asking you to stay inside as much as possible. If you do go outside, make sure that you dress for the weather, dress in layers. Frostbite is a risk in this cold weather. We want to make sure that you keep an eye on that, and also keep an eye on your pets. We've had situations where pets have been let outside. You should not let your dogs off leashes, and you should not really put your pets outside unless you're supervising them. It's important. More dogs are lost during winter storms than any other period of our season. We're going to continue to work with all of our partners to monitor the forecast and keep everyone informed. I want to encourage everyone to go, if you're looking for information, boston.gov/winter. That's boston.gov/winter. That's our website. Every bit of information I'm saying here today and other information will be on that website. That's where you're going to find the latest information on public transit, on parking ban, toll lots, and other information. You'll also get information on citywide services. You can also call 311, our constituent service line, for information on all these topics. We are getting calls right now to tell us that their streets haven't been plowed. We will get to your streets, so we're asking you to hold off on those calls for a little bit, but later on today you can start making those calls. We're asking you to be patient. We're experiencing extremely high call volume at 311, and the staff is dealing with these calls. They're answering the phones as soon as they get to them. I'd like to just give a couple shout-outs today. I'd like to thank the Northeastern University Co-op that are answering our phones today, and also the Boston Police Cadet Program. Our cadets are here today as well, answering phones, along with other city staff I'd like to thank them all for doing an incredible job. I also encourage everyone to sign up for our Alert Boston system if you haven't already. It'll take 2 minutes. We'll notify you by phone, text, and email in the case of emergency updates, so you'll be able to get that information instantaneously. Also, we're asking people, if you're on Twitter, follow the City of Boston to stay up to date on what we're doing. Again, I want to thank all the first responders and all the city workers who are helping us get through this storm. I want to thank everyone for doing their part in their neighborhoods, and thank you for your help. And I also want to thank the media for your support as well, getting all this information out to the people of Boston and Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I'm asking, encouraging everyone to try and stay warm. With that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Flooding, especially how it's coming back tonight when the temperatures are also dropping. Are you worried about any significant ice problems because of that?
No, we certainly are, and that's why we have the fire department and water and sewer out there right now, along with the special services, keeping an eye on what's happening. I talked to Commissioner Finn earlier today. He was on TV, and we just want to make sure that everybody's safe. And actually, what I'll do, I'll have Commissioner Finn come up and say a couple words on this.
We certainly have concerns about freezing, but more importantly, there was a number of buildings down in that Long Wharf area that their transformer faults and things get flooded. So we're trying to evaluate that and go through safely which buildings what can be shut down and what shouldn't be shut down. So we're working hand in hand with Eversource and National Grid and so on to make sure we do that.
Is anyone going to be displaced there? So
Hopefully not, but we're working through that right now, okay? The Marriott Long Wharf Hotel was isolated. They have a pretty good system. There was actually no compromise of any of water into any of their electrical equipment, so they're in pretty good shape. So that's probably the only occupancy other than like the chat room, restaurant, and things like that. But we're getting through every building, and hopefully we don't have to evacuate anybody.
I just want to also say the Bruins game is canceled tonight, as everyone knows, and we want people to be careful, so really stay in tonight. It's not a night to go out to bar rooms. It's not a night to be walking in the street. We have people right now walking in the middle of the street because sidewalks aren't shoveled. Plows can't see you, and they can't stop on a dime, as I said yesterday, and it's very dangerous to be out there. So you need to know of your surroundings. You know, if you're going to be walking, do not have headphones on. Make sure you know what's around you. Make sure you know what's in front of you and behind you. And also, just be careful. There's really not a lot of reason to be out tonight. This storm's not going to end until about 9 o'clock. It could go later with snow drifts and wind, and we want to make sure that people are safe. And we don't want to be, putting people shouldn't be putting themselves in harm's way. And also, if your kids are outside today, just keep an eye on them. Make sure they're not on the sidewalks and not in the streets. It's dangerous, even if your street isn't plowed yet or it's getting plowed and snow's back there and it's fun out there. It's just dangerous. Plows come around the corner. They can't. You got to expect they can't see you because of what's going on. So we're asking people to be very careful.
What was your reaction when you saw the flooding around Atlantic Avenue and the Seaport, and put into context of when you've seen flooding like that before?
Well, obviously concern. Atlantic Avenue, there's a lot of residences right near there. In the Seaport, we have residents as well. In the Ponset Circle in Dorchester and Port Norfolk and Dorchester as well, and other parts of the city. It's dangerous. We had a situation where we thought that Woods Mullen, our women's shelter, was going to have to be evacuated potentially, but that was okay. So, we're keeping an eye on all of those different floodings, and if anyone wants to question global warming, just see where the flood zones are. Those zones didn't flood 30 years ago, some of those areas. Some of those areas did, but so we do have some concerns, and we're going to stay on top of it.
A lot of these areas are places where we've seen a lot of development in recent years, and you guys just put out the Climate Ready Boston Plan fairly recently. Does this give a little more urgency to thinking about how we build along the water?
I think it does. I think it reminds developers as they think about development, how do they build into that development potential protections? As the commissioner said about Marriott Long Wharf, clearly they did some renovations there and they did some work to secure the building. Not all buildings are like that. Some buildings were built 100 years ago. So I think that's something that we will talk more about as we look at development moving forward. But I think this is a reminder today of what could happen in a storm like this. If this wasn't snow and this was rain, we'd have additional flooding today. So I think that, and if it wasn't so cold, so I think we have to kind of pay more attention to what we're doing with Climate Ready Boston, but also pass that information out to more people.
People have to get their sidewalks cleared by 10 or so tomorrow. Is there any leeway for folks who've seen all this stuff freeze and it's now solid?
That's why you need to shovel it. I mean, I think that you can't have leeway. I mean, if you have leeway, then that means that sidewalks aren't going to be shoveled. If sidewalks aren't shoveled, people aren't going to get by. And we're asking people to get out there. If you can't get out there, you call one of the kids in the neighborhood. I know that at least when we were growing up, we'd always be out there looking for something to do. Grab one of the kids in the neighborhood, throw them a few bucks, ask them to shovel your sidewalks for you. We got to do that. I mean, I know there's always going to be that story of the person that didn't shovel the sidewalk and they got a fine. The fines aren't there to penalize people. The fines are there to encourage people to shovel so they don't have to be fined. And that rule that I have is to our city employees as well, our city officers. And, if we have a police station or a firehouse or a park or something like that not shoveled, we give tickets to our people, and I expect them to shovel as well. Now, I know, obviously, this is a tough storm, and it's going to end around 9 o'clock tonight, so we're asking people to, shovel, maybe get out a little bit today, right now, get some of the snow out, so you're not dealing with a foot of snow. You're dealing with 6 or 7 inches at a time. But we really need to get the sidewalks. We need to be able for people to get through the sidewalks. I mean, Monday morning, if people don't shovel their sidewalks, kids are walking to school. People are going to work. Seniors are walking down to church and other places. And if the sidewalks aren't shoveled, it's going to cause more harm to them as well. So we're really asking people, encouraging them to make preparations right now to have their sidewalks clean.
Next question. Should people are finance district, should we worry about the high tide at 6 p.m.?
Well, we're not expecting it to be as high as this morning, but I think that, again, the best thing to do is stay off the roads. If you're off the roads, that allows our emergency personnel to go down and do their job. If it allows our water and sewer and inspection service to do their job. If people are driving and they get stuck in the middle of a foot of water, that takes resources away from other parts of the city that they're focused on trying to get somebody out of that situation when those resources could be potentially used in other parts of the city. So again, we're asking people, don't drive to the beach, don't see what the storm looks like, don't see what the flooding looks like, because you're just going to become an obstacle and you're potentially going to put yourself at risk and put other people at risk. And we're asking people just to stay off the road. If you want to see the flood, watch it on the news. Anything else?
Do you have any sense of, probably too early for any damage estimates from flooding, but any sense of sort of how this compares to previous storms like this?
Well, it's the first time I can remember in 4 years since we had a snowstorm or any significant rain that we've had flooding that's come up as far and gone into some basements. I think that, I'm not sure with the damage in some parts of the city, like in East Boston or in Dorchester. I'm not sure if any of the basements got flooded. We've had individual storms where we've had floods in the past. We had one last year in, was it Roxbury? In Roxbury that went into some basements and some equipment was ruined. So I'm expecting that we will have some of that. I'm not sure what the value will be of that right now. It's too early to tell, but I'm sure there will be some damage to the storm in other cases. And right now I haven't heard of any down power lines or tree limbs, but that's always a potential as well of a tree coming down and going into a home or a power line going down. So I think it's too early to tell that right now. Oh yeah, shelters, a couple things. Well, we did have to evacuate today, senior complex over in Brighton. There was 89 seniors that were evacuated this morning due to water damage. The heat was working, but so that's going to be a significant amount of damage in that building with pipes freezing and bursting. But we're also, in the case of an emergency, we are prepared to have our centers, our Boston Center for Youth and Family Facilities open. Right now, it's the standalone centers that are open. But if we had a situation where in a neighborhood went down, some of our centers that are connected to schools, we would open those for emergency purposes. So we are prepared in case of a situation where we have to move people into a shelter. Earlier today, we thought that we might have to move Woods Mullen. We were going to move them over to the South End Fitness Center. So we have a shelter prepared there as well in the South End if we have to bring people in to stay warm or evacuate someplace. I'm hoping it doesn't happen. But I didn't think the tide would rise at Long Wharf and go as far as it did either. So we're going to be prepared for anything that might happen.
Where were the seniors staying?
To hotels. The owner of the property put them up in hotels, and hopefully they'll be back in there tomorrow. It was a safety precaution because of the water and the electricity. They didn't want to have them in a situation that was potentially dangerous. So they were all taken care of this morning. It was very early this morning. The commissioner Evans was on top of it, and we talked, I think it was by 7 o'clock this morning. So they were taken good care of today. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
We took him to a hotel.
Guy out that was deaf or something.
I felt bad, you know? If they